Currently, plastic is at the top of an international agenda for waste management. Recent studies have expressed concern over the impact of plastic waste, marine plastic litter, and microplastics. They have also emphasized the importance of reducing consumption and ensuring that environmentally sound management of waste plastics. So our RISE correspondent, Adefemi Akisoya, has identified formal and informal waste management activities that have sought to tackle plastic pollution in Lagos. But as she reports, recycling is not the only answer to plastic pollution.
Lagos is sinking and plastic pollution is pushing it down. Bottles, sachets and other packaging are all easily found clogging gutters, waterways and streets across the state. It's a crisis that's largely been dismissed as part and parcel of everyday life, but we all play a role in plastic pollution, and often it starts at home. Recent figures suggest that just 12% of plastic waste in Nigeria ends up being recycled, and it's easy to understand why. Over the course of the week, these are the plastic bottles I've used, but my options are limited. Well, much like many residential areas in Lagos, there's no dedicated recycle bin, just normal household ones. So for me who wants to dispose of my plastic waste, my immediate option is to use one of these bins. The problem with that though is that once they're collected, these bins, along with my plastics, all end up in the same place. That's likely to be the Olusosun landfill in Ojota, which is the only designated disposal area site in Lagos. It was opened in 1991 and it's estimated that this site receives about 70% of all the waste generated in the city. One thing that's painstakingly clear with the visible amounts of degradation and pollution, plastic pollution, all types of pollution here, is the fact that plastic, every piece of plastic since the beginning of time, is still on the planet. It doesn't biodegrade, it doesn't disappear. More than 1,000 waste pickers congregate daily for the recovery of recyclables. The informal waste economy of Lagos comprises over 5,000 cart pushers, but also cart builders, waste pickers, resource merchants and recyclers, all of them aware of the financial rewards for picking plastic. Once the plastic has been collected, one of the places it's brought to is WeCyclers, a for-profit organisation which collects, compresses and compensates people for their plastic waste. I've come to their Bute Meta branch where operations manager Rafiat talks me through the process.
We have different sheds for different recyclables. We have sheds for sachets, that's nylon, low, high and sachets. We have shed for PET bottles. So when they sort these recyclables, they are transferred to the baling section. So the baling section is the place where we have the machine that we use to compact these materials together. So when these materials are built, they are taken out, where they are arranged properly, and then we wait for trucks to come and take them off. Everybody at this neighborhood know what we do, and they know the value that they get from recycling this material, so they bring them here.
Before long, we're met by a local principal who brought in plastics from her school. She believes a little recycling can go a long way for the environment.
I don't like what is happening in Lagos when there's rain. Most of the gutters are flooded. You see a lot of canned bottles, rubber, sachet, nylon. And I decided on my own, even if it's not convenient for me to come here, I make sure I keep all my used sachets, pure water sachet. I encourage my teachers, pupils in the school, I have a bag where we keep them. All use plastics. Even if I'm outside, if I use plastic, I'll put it in my bag, bring it home and put it. And I want to encourage all citizens to do the way I'm doing, because if all of us are doing it, we'll not be having flooded gutters, which is causing flood.
WeCyclers receive some 120 tons of plastics every month, and from the looks of the grounds at this site alone, their work is far from over.
Well, when these materials leave your home, whether they're collected or brought here personally, they're forgotten. There's certainly an out of sight, out of mind type of thing. But to be here and to see just how labor-intensive the process of preparing these materials for their next life is, it begs the question of how. How do seemingly worthless materials become valuable?
Nigerians across the country are using plastic waste to make sandals, dresses and bags, as well as artwork, decorations and ornaments. It's easy to see the effects of upcycling plastics on land, but what about what's happening underwater? Nigeria has become the 8th biggest plastic polluter of oceans in the world. That infamy is clearly visible across Lagos, with ample examples of marine life drastically affected by the pollution. This is Goshen Beach in Lekki, which, despite the grey weather, boasts a breathtaking view. But its beachfront is somewhat hidden under the litter of plastics. Another glimpse into just how bad this problem is. Beaches long being hubs for heaps of recyclable waste. We've come to Tarkwa Bay, a community in the southernmost parts of Lagos. It is an island, which means we can only get there by boat. Over the years, Tarkwa Bay has kept a reputation for being a plastic pollution hotspot. But on the day of our arrival, the beachfront has recently been cleaned, with some workers still in the process of tidying up the space. We meet Akindisu, an honorary native of the area. He says the people on the island have done their best to dispose of plastic responsibly. And as the owner of Pop Beach Club, a popular social venue, he says he's also doing his part to empower the community with plastic.
We take it all off the island ourselves, and we take it to recyclers in Lagos to recycle, and what we're trying to do is to develop a social plastic vehicle where we would be able to convert the value in the plastic into education. I'm taking a child that is born this year, and I really want to equip that child in a plastic-free environment with the education that is required for the child to remain in his community and be a player.
There's certainly hope for the future, but it's the present that's alarming. But with the ebb and flow of these waters, we're reminded that inevitably plastic pollution does, of course, make its way into the waves and underneath them, causing one of the biggest stresses on freshwater ecosystems. Now, microplastics, that is, of course, smaller pieces of plastic that are broken away from larger ones, make their way into the water and disrupt marine and aquatic life. But the biggest contributor to pollution in water, most especially here in Nigeria, are plastics, things like bags, bottles, and even pure water sachets. During dry season, it's been reported that roughly 70% of Nigerian adults drink a sachet of water daily. That's about 60 million used sachet nylons disposed of across the country each day. Sachets have become an important source of drinking water to many households across the country, especially in rural areas because of its affordability. But the damage being done by them is the real cost. That's why groups have continued to lobby both the state and federal governments on action on plastic pollution. Environmental lawyer Mudrakat McFoy believes there is appetite from government to create solutions such as introducing charges to single-use plastics.
Such policies are more effective when they trickle down from state government or federal government. Last year as well, the LOMA, the Lagos State Waste Management Association, they created a recycling initiative to be able to bring households into the fold of recycling.
In environmental law, the polluter pays principle is the commonly accepted practice that those who produce pollution should bear the costs of managing it to prevent damage to human health or the environment.
Now, polluter pays principle is somewhat incorporated in some of our environmental laws in Nigeria and in Lagos, and it was adopted by Nigeria in 1999. But again, enforcement, to what extent are we seeing that these people are bearing the cross for what they put out there?
Make no mistake, recycling does help, but it's not the solution many people think it is. Plastic is made from low-cost crude oil, the supply of which far outweighs demand, making it far cheaper for plastic producers to create more virgin plastic than to recycle. Plastics labelled 1 or 2, such as those used for drink bottles, are easier to recycle, whereas all other types, those labelled 3 to 7, such as PVC, are too expensive. Plastics made from more than one type are almost impossible to recycle. Recycling centres run the risk of damaging their machinery in the process. Around the world, the ability to recycle is dwarfed by the amount of plastic being used. So simply put,
The fastest way to stop Lagos sinking under the weight of its own plastic pollution is to enforce laws that will make plastic producers more responsible for the single-use plastic it creates. Our future depends on it. Adefemi Akinsanya, Arise News, Lagos.
All right, another wonderful report there by Adefemi Akinsanya. I mean, the scourge of plastic and plastic waste. I mean, we see this in our society every single time. I'd like to take your thoughts on this, Dr. Abati and Tundu.
My issue is the discovery last year of microplastics in human placentas for the first time. It's extremely worrying. It was a study done with healthy pregnant women, and somehow they have ingested these microplastics, and so is the unborn infant. And we don't know the health, consequences. We do need to get a handle on this problem. Rwanda went all the way and banned plastics entirely. I'm not sure if that's going to be an option for an oil-producing country like Nigeria, but we do need to, resolve it.
Yeah, no. Well, microplastics have been found in humans, and you said in pregnant women. They've also been found in wildlife animals, wildlife habitat, and the major threat is to the whole of humanity. It's not a Nigerian problem, it's a global problem. Over 340 million tons of non-biodegradable plastics in the ocean on an annual basis. And so when we talk about the environment, when we talk about saving the earth, the threat of plastics pollution has become a major problem from New Delhi to Port Harcourt, where the Garden City has now been turned along its coastal lines into a garbage city. So, but what Adefemi has shown us is, a representation of a major global problem, and that's why we have the Earth Day. That's why we have the Global Environment Day, and that's why the Basel Convention, was amended to accommodate this concern. Under the Basel Convention, many of the countries that signed up to it, with the exception of the United States, are required to address this as part of the threat that the climate change crisis can pose to humanity. Now, one of the points that came out of the Adefemi Akinsanya report is how recycling alone may not solve the problem. Okay, yes, there is recycling. There is a plastic to wealth, waste to wealth program in many parts of the world. Akindiso, the gentleman that was there, he was on this program once to tell us about the wonderful work that he is doing in the Ilashe and Takwa Bay area, Ilashe and Takwa Bay, I think, to address this problem. But I think some other steps that we probably need to take would be raising awareness. Many people are not even aware that these plastics, these microplastics, that we just throw away, pose a threat to the environment, pose a threat to human habitat, pose a threat to marine habitat. They don't know, so they really do not care.
And unborn babies.
Yes. Then secondly, I think it's also important, beyond raising awareness, to have a more proactive policy, maybe to ban or raise the cost of access. This is what the Secretary for Environment did recently in the United Kingdom, when the cost of those single-use plastics, was increased. Some superstores in the UK even decided to ban it. And the assumption is that if it is more expensive for you to answer the question, what do they say, paper or plastics? One of my favorite phrases in the UK. Then, of course, you probably take paper, which is more degradable. Now, yeah. So this is the challenge that we face: awareness, and and then turning waste into trash. Having a very strong climate change policy. Here in Nigeria, we pay lip service to it. State governments talk about it, but I don't think it's something that they take seriously yet. And that's why the next crisis may come from the environment, not necessarily from biology.
Well, zoonotic diseases are also an environmental problem.
It has come already. I wanted to